Welcome back to the show for another episode of Don't Let College Bankrupt You. That's Bankrupt U as in university, or maybe Bankrupt You as in YOU. My guests, as usual, are two college professors, Doctors Bill Quain and Joe Corabi, who pay you back. During this series of shows, we'll talk about what colleges really don't want you to know and provide some guidance on how to keep your costs down and prepare for a more successful post-college career. And that's really our focus today. We're going to talk about grow, show, and bestow your value after those 4 to 6 to 8 years of college. Bill Quain, Joe Corabi, always a pleasure. Thanks for making time to do yet another show in the Bankrupt U series.
I had to be here, Gary.
Gary, good morning. Thanks for having us. Wonderful.
So Bill, this is chapter 5, grow, show, and bestow. And it's a playbook. It's guidance for students and their families. And you started off by talking about this continuing and pervasive myth that college is the best route. College is the best route to become successful, period. Talk about that.
Well, it's the government, the media, colleges themselves especially, they keep telling you what you need is that degree, and that degree will unlock it all for you. And so what's happening is students are spending 4 to 6 years, sometimes longer, just waiting until they get that degree. And then what they find out is that degree isn't worth anything. It's what what value you have built inside you that is what you're about to sell to somebody. And colleges never talk about selling. I mean, unless you're in some kind of specialized sales program or courses. The colleges never talk about the fact that you're going to have to actually convince somebody to give you money once you graduate. And you'll have to do that for the rest of your life.
And the value piece, you're really saying that the value isn't the college degree, it's what the person earned that college degree does with it? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I talk to a lot of young people, as does Joe, and you do too, Gary. And they seem to have this idea that it's become a plug and play sort of society. You do certain things, and then people all of a sudden seek you out to give you money, and it just doesn't work that way. You've got to actually build value in you, and that value is in the eyes of the beholder. Joe will talk about that in a minute, but that value is inside you. It has nothing to do with your degree. Well, it can have something to do with your degree, but every year thousands of students graduate with those degrees, and the trend now is to be sending out hundreds of resumes on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and the others, and just waiting, and that's too late.
And Joe Corabi, again, thanks for joining us on the show. Bill just referenced a section in the book that you guys call Value is in the Eyes of the Buyer. Talk about the buyer and their perspective on, and Bill does a good job of giving you money. That's what they're doing in return for skills.
Yes, and once again, good morning, Gary. And the value, it's really interesting. Colleges would like you to believe that they're going to create your value, and I don't buy into that in any way. It's almost like a supply and demand factor. The determination of value is done by the buyer. All right. Now we got to remember, a buyer wants you to work for them because what? They may not have the time, they may not have the skills, or for that matter, they may not have the desire to do something. They're looking for somebody who can fill that void. And I think that's the key word here. All right. The buyer has a void that needs to be filled. All right. And if you don't have the value to fill that void, you're out of luck. So that's the premise of the whole thing about value.
And let's get an example, Joe, and say I've got a Bachelor of Science in Biology, and I just graduated. How many other folks might be applying for the same kind of jobs I'm applying for?
Yeah, and that's the critical thing. You've got to be able to show what separates you. And remember that most employers are not just looking for somebody who can do something. All right. They're building organizations. So it's also how does your contribution or your contributions, make everybody around you better too. All right. So your value is much more than just what meets the eye. It's what can you bring to the organization. So, there are, like you said, there are hundreds and thousands of people with various degrees. Okay. What makes you special? Um, what makes you, the term I always use with my students is what separates you from the masses? All right. How are you going to get the employer's attention?
I'm going to digress from the book for just a second because I have counseled many college students and we do practice interviews and that kind of stuff for the jobs that they want. And when we
Mhm.
get to the compensation piece, I always offer, after we've had the first set of interviews, that you're going to get a job offer and they're going to say, here's the compensation, whatever it is. And I always teach them that that person making the job offer has a piece of paper in front of them that shows salary ranges for skill levels, experience levels, education levels, those kind of things. And no matter what that job salary offer is, the best question to ask is always, how much flexibility do you have with that? Because I make the case, no buyer, in this case, employer, cares how much you need. They don't care how much you want. They care how much value you
Mhm.
provide to them. Is that a fair way to approach that, Joe?
Well, without a doubt. And I love the way you just said that. I usually say that an employer determines this is what the job is worth. I mean,
Right.
it's just really funny. Is there any flexibility in this? Well, maybe it's like, okay, this is what I had in mind for the job, but can you give me something else? I mean, is there something that you have that I wasn't counting on or I didn't see? Because then, maybe there is some flexibility, but you have to show the buyer that you've got more than what the buyer anticipated.
And so, Bill, that goes back to the value question, doesn't it? What value do you bring?
Well, and Gary, before the pandemic, I travel around the country and actually around the world talking about this particular subject here because I wrote a book called Money Talks. Finally, the first ever interview between man and money. I actually interviewed money, and money told me a lot of great things. But people would come up to me after my talk and say to me, "How do I get paid what I'm worth?" And I said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I don't feel like I'm getting paid what I'm worth on my job. And I said, yes, you are. I mean, whatever they're
Absolutely
paying
are,
you,
yeah.
that's what you're worth because you agreed to work for that amount. That's the amount they offered you. Now, if you want to get more, here's a clue to everybody. Nobody ever pays you for work you are about to do. You so you've got to start providing value to them long before you get the money for that. You got to walk in there to that interview. Well, I mean, these days, hey, even getting an interview is crazy because you got the algorithms for Indeed, and so if you've waited till you graduate to start making yourself look valuable, and building value, you waited 4 to 6 years too late. You got to start freshman year becoming more valuable. And your college will fight you every way on that because they don't want to be bothered with that. They want to be teaching you the things that they have on the that they're all on the roster already. They want to teach you sociology and this and that. You got to break through that barrier and start looking for the courses at your college that were actually going to make you a more valuable animal.
Joe, you got a question.
Yeah, just real quick. You know, I had this conversation with some of my. I had a class last night, and I had this conversation with some of my students. And let's just say that you have a yearly contract that expires on June 30th, as many people do, right? And you're not happy with your compensation. The great thing about having a contract that ends on June 30th is that you become a free agent. All righty. So you don't have to work for what you're working. So why don't you just go out there and see what somebody else wants to give you? All righty. And you're going to be very, very surprised because you're going to find out that most likely you are getting compensated at the correct rate. You may think you have more value, but the buyer doesn't. So go out there and try to be a free agent and see what happens. I mean, it happens all the time in sports. And there are many, many, many guys who don't have a contract when the season starts.
And this is my visual reminder. I'm going to make an edit here. I'm going to talk about LinkedIn. Um, are either of you comfortable talking about students showing their value using LinkedIn? If not, I'll move on.
Probably. Well,
We-
I'm probably not as comfortable with that, but
Bill?
I could talk about that.
Okay, let's do that then. So, Bill, we talked about creators showing value, demonstrating value, and there's software tools out there. There's social media tools out there like LinkedIn. If I were a student just graduating from college, or hey, even in my college career, what kind of guidance would you give me in trying to demonstrate value using a tool like LinkedIn?
Well, first of all, again, Gary, I go back to the fact that if you're just getting on LinkedIn when you're about to graduate,
Yeah,
you're 4 years too late.
yeah,
You know, you got to create a LinkedIn account uh, the minute you get there. Now, the minute you get to college. Now, here's the thing: use your career resources office or whatever it's called on your campus. I mean, these are people whose job it is to help you get a job. And so they'll help you grow your value. So, but now we're in the point of showing value.
yeah,
LinkedIn is a fantastic way to show value. You can put pictures up there. You can put, hey, here's what I tell my students because I do a lot of projects in my classes, and so I tell my students if let's say you build a big Excel worksheet or something like that, and Gary, we have in the book we talk about my daughter who
yeah.
actually did this, and she created a very now she got a master's degree in hospitality, and she's working now as as assistant director of business analytics for a big resort down in Florida, doing very well. But when she went to get that job, she took this Excel spreadsheet, which is very complicated, and rather than just posting that on like LinkedIn, what she did was she made a capture video for it. You can go, there's a thing called screenpal.com.
Yeah.
That's screenpal.com. Joe and I do not get any. Well, first of all, it's free. so we don't get anything from Screen. Well, you can bring up your spreadsheet and do a video tour of the spreadsheet because you don't want to send a spreadsheet to somebody and maybe not have them understand it. That's
Yeah.
wasted, And then you put the link to that video. You put it up on YouTube. You put that link on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And you draw attention to it. What my daughter Kathleen, what she did was she made one specifically for the particular job she was looking for, and she's put it on YouTube. Sent that link down about a week before her job interview. Meanwhile, now everybody's circulating that link around, and they're all watching this. And she got hired. Actually, the job she applied for, but when they saw this LinkedIn video, they said, "We have a better job for you." This true story. We have a better job for you than you were the one you were applying for because we didn't know this could even be done. So it was a great thing. So yeah, LinkedIn is wonderful. You can you start following other people. You need to be showing your value starting freshman year. Any little thing you do, trumpet it.
And
Can I say one more thing too, Gary?
sure.
Here's another great video tip. Whatever job you're on right now, let's say you have a job in the summertime when you're at college, do some video there and give people what we call a JTV. A JTV, I have all my internship students. I'm teaching an internship this course this summer. And my students all have to produce a JTV, a job tour video, where they give a tour of their job, what they do there, and how it provides value for their employer. They put it on YouTube, and I tell them, hey, then use that for LinkedIn, and get that out there so people can have a quick reference, and they can just pass that around everybody. And you say, oh, listen, let's say you're a server in a restaurant, and maybe you're not applying for a hospitality job, you're applying for a marketing job or whatever. You talk about, hey, here's what I've learned. I got customers out there who want me, and I've got the restaurant who wants me to sell more. it's bam, Gary. That makes all the difference.
And Joe, when we talk about using social media tools, really any kind of career starts with relationships, right? However you
I've
establish
always
them.
believed, well, I've always believed that. I've always believed that there's never, you can always build relationships. You can always build interpersonal skills, and it takes us back to, what our employers saying are some of the weaknesses of those in the job market. And it really comes down to three things: time management skills, professionalism, and critical thinking. And professionalism and time management can incorporate so many things. Just the simple fact of looking somebody in the eyes when you're talking to them, and knowing when and when not to use your phone. And how about just showing up for work on time? Colleges don't teach those lessons. And you know what? It's really embedded in the whole culture of college. Think about it. It's okay to, quote, have three cuts in this class and still not be penalized. Now, how in the world is that going to translate to your boss, your employer? It's okay to miss 3 days of work and you won't be penalized. All right? I mean, you just think of some of the
So,
lessons that are
goodness.
being taught in college. Oh, you didn't do really well on the test, but don't worry about it. I'm going to curve all the grades so everybody will look good. I mean, it's a joke. I mean, come on, how in the world is that creating, the type of person that somebody wants to invest in? I mean,
Great points.
this makes no sense to me, Gary. It just makes no sense. It's incongruent with the real world.
Hey,
And
Gary,
then,
quick story.
yeah,
I talked to my brother-in-law this weekend. We were talking about summer jobs we had, a long time ago. He's my age, and he was telling me about we're at the Jersey Shore here, and he was when he was 16, he was a dishwasher at a big restaurant that it's closed now. This was 50 years ago, or almost 45 years ago, and but what happened was he was living with a bunch of friends, and they got kicked out of their apartment because one of them had a big party while he was at work. He gets back, his clothes are on the front lawn, and the landlord threw them out. So he has no place to live. But he said, I was the only dishwasher at this place that showed up on time every day. And so this place gave him they cleared out a room for him upstairs at the restaurant and let him live
gosh.
there for the rest of the summer because he was so valuable to them just because he showed up on time. So,
And then I guess the last part of this, so grow, show, and bestow. Bill, step us through the scenario. I have found that first post-college job. How am I going to bestow my value in those first weeks, months, and years?
well, it is more difficult to bestow your value because you don't have all that much of it, which is why you're getting paid what you're getting paid. That's what they call
Right,
a
right.
starting salary, because they're going to be investing in you as well. They're going to be teaching you things. But here's what you want to do: every chance you get, you want to help somebody else succeed. So every day you're on the job, well, first of all, do your job. Get there on time, wear the right clothing. Don't spit on the floor. All the good things you have to do. But every day, I want you to be thinking about, okay, how do I help other people be successful where I work? This will change everything for you, because once you start bestowing value on other people, see what happens, Gary, when you become valuable, you develop what is called mentor equity. And I, in another book I wrote, I talk about the 5 kinds of equity you want to build up. And now when you have equity, you own something. Your degree has very little equity with it. Your diploma, it's you that has equity there. And what you want to do is you get to the point where you are actually getting paid to bestow equity, your mentor equity, your value on other people. And that's when you start, if you're at a corporation, that's when you start rising up through the ranks. if you have your own business is when you start make your own business more valuable because you've made everyone else in the business valuable.
And Joe Corabi, as we wrap this up, you talk about teamwork a lot, and that's kind of what Bill's talking about here, isn't it?
Without a doubt. I mean, every once in a while, I'll slip to an analogy about sports. I mean, you probably found that out.
Every once in a while, right?
Every once in a while, we'll slip into a sports analogy. But think about it. A running back doesn't score a touchdown unless the offensive line knocks the defensive line out of the way. All right. When and the thing about making somebody else, I'm going to pick up on what Bill said here. The interesting thing about making somebody else look good is that you feel good. You feel good about yourself. You feel good about the camaraderie of the team. And I got news for you. There's a reason why running backs buy offensive linemen Rolex watches. All right, because they realize that without them, they're not going to function. So I'm a firm believer in building a team approach, but you got to earn that. All right, you got to give. You've got to give other people a chance to grow. Use your skills to help them get better, and you just can't be jealous. I mean, just do it, man, because it's going to make you feel better. It's going to make them feel better, and they might even take you out to lunch. Who knows?
Gary, can I end with one quick thing here? And this is a hard thing to say. People are going to have a tough time hearing this. Gary, you might even, I wanted to wait till the end on this because you might even cut this out in the editing. But here's a hard message to students and to recent graduates. If you can't find a job, you're getting paid what you're worth.
Interesting. Well, the book is Bankrupt U. The co-authors have been our guests for a series of shows. Doctors Bill Quain and Joe Corabi, always a pleasure. Bankrupt U, students, parents, and alumni are going broke. We've talked about all those. And colleges don't give a crap. And Bill, what does the CRAP acronym stand for?
Creating Richer Alumni Playbook. And Joe and I do give a crap. We give you one right in this book.
Very good. Guys, fascinating series of shows. Thank you very much. And we'll keep going.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.